I'm Mr. Wazensky, and this is a speed run of Practice Test 4, the second module, the B module, the easy one. And even though this is easy, we're going to start this off the same way we start every single one with our tilt management strategy of heading to the first conventions question. It's not here on 14, it's not there on 15, woof, it's not there on 16, but there it is on 17. We see the omega consideration verb is popping, so I'll make that little note there. I'm going to check for number first, as I always do. I've got a neither, I've got a plural, I've got a neither, and I've got a neither, right? We're putting he and they right before the first verb that's offered. I am going to consider that this is either forming a clause or it's going to be parallel structure. So I'm going to look for an and. I don't see one that's there. This is going to be forming a clause. For these, it's hard to know all the grammar stuff to get it right for the right reasons. What you're going to want to do is just be disciplined, read deep, and check for vibes, right? This one is going to be the odd man out in this situation, and reason being we need our independent clause to have its verb that tells me when. 18. Another conventions question. We look for our omega considerations, and there are not any. I can move on to consistency because I see a beautiful little dash there. I check the text and I do not see another dash. Therefore, I can tap into equivalence, and recognize that these two things after that secondary step are equal. Then it's one of these two guys. I'll bias this little a because a comma after of is weird, but now I'm going to read it and see what I've got. We've got our subject. He explored themes of healing, right? So just because it's a list doesn't mean we have to introduce all lists with colons. This of wants unimpeded access to the list, and we're going to lock in A19. Conventions again. What do we got here for the omega consideration? We have verbs, wild deja vu from the last one. We've got a singular, a neither, and a neither with the exact same setup. It's going to be either parallel structure or forming a clause. I'm going to look for an and. I certainly don't have one because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words there. I'll bias the odd man out, and just like last time, it's going to be the odd man out. I need a verb that tells me when in order to have this independent clause, in order to satisfy the demands of this colon. 20. I'll make a consideration again. What a little gift with verbs. I've got a singular, a both, and a singular. This is going to be a shift in verb tense question, so I'm going to consider the whens. I've got a present. In this first layer, we ignore the aspect, right, which are these second words. We just consider layer 1, we've got the future, and we've got the past. There isn't really much of an odd man out, so I'm going to go looking for a when idea. The propulsion laboratory does something to do with data about Saturn's rings collected by the aircraft when she made an interesting discovery. This made is going to be my absolute when clue. It's going to be the past here. Data is collected by. This is not actually telling me when. If you thought that was the one, that's a bad clue there, right? It was which were collected. This is a reduced passive. That's just something to build some discipline. It's not all EDs tell us when, but this is it. Made is the past, was is the past, done. 21. Omega considerations. What do we have here? We have possession. We have a few things that we can test for possession. Oh, I'm going to fight right here. These are going to be wrong because I'm not going to possess that oh man, whoa, all of them are wrong. I don't even need to consider a number for this one. I know that I have a prepositional phrase here. Elided possession is not a thing that matters. You want to be able to point your finger on the thing that's being possessed, and stories is not possessing this of right here. And then we can just pick that sucker and move on. 22. We are looking for any omega considerations that are here. I don't see any that are obvious, so I move on to consistency. In this consistency, I'm going to go after this semicolon. Give me a little bit more space to look. I don't see another semicolon, therefore semicolon in this step 3. Equivalence, semicolon equals a period, so it's going to be one of these two things. We can read the sentence now. For instance, the colorful rockfish can survive for a little over a decade, while the rockfish boasts this. Yeah, so the right side is not exemplifying the left side. The rough eye rockfish is not the colorful calico, so we're not going to exemplify anything. D is it. 23. Omega consideration. I've got pronoun, I've got a singular pronoun, I've got a plural pronoun, I've got a plural pronoun, and I've got a singular pronoun. There really isn't much of an odd man out in this one because we've got a 50-50 split between whether or not they're going to be reflexive, which is what these are, or just subject or object pronouns, rather. I'm going to read this and think about it. I'm going to look for an antecedent. The antecedent is the antecedent. The antecedent is the who or the what the pronoun is referring to. So who or what is the they or them or the it or them. Scientists believe that unlike most other species of barnacle, turtle barnacles Okay, this seems to be pretty cute. Turtle barnacles can dissolve the cement-like secretions they use to attach themselves. So it's going to be themselves here. So my original antecedent is they. They is referring to barnacles. That we are bouncing back to the subject is what the reflexive pronoun would be. If it were C, that would mean that there would be a different plural entity that would be attached to. But that's not the case. And we're out of it. Transitions 24. We can read our left side and grab some clues. These spatulae temporarily bond with the atoms of whatever they touch. They bond with whatever. They bond with whatever. This is going to be where I derive my x equals. Then my y is going to come from this right side over here. Let me interact with this. Y equals. Spiders are able to cling to and climb. The spiders are climbable and clingable. When I think about this relationship, this seems to be a pretty obvious cause and effect interaction because x, y, because they bond with whatever, spiders are able to cling. As I look to that, I've got an as a result as a pretty easy find there. 25. I'm going to look for something on my left side. Something over here is going to be my x equals. Geoscientists have long considered Hawaii's volcano to be the largest shield volcano by volume, measuring big measure. So they long considered biggest shield volcano. And then there's its bigness. Then we can look to the right side and we can extract some sort of information for our y that's going to be over here. Y equals, according to a study by geoscientists, according to Michael, he found a shield that was much bigger. This is going to be some sort of contrast, even though is going to be my template in here, even though x, y, as I start looking to do that, I don't have sequence, I don't have cause and effect. Oh, there's my however. However could be naked contrast, just sheer, there's this one thing and then there's this other, whereas x, y, but it could also be this one of aggression, so there's not much of a thought to have beyond this here. 26, let's start engaging with something where my x would come from here. X equals, when they tasted the dish known as that word, they found that it had a mild taste and inspired a sense of calm. So I'm going to ignore the when tasted this dish. It contextualizes my verb of like when they did the finding, but they found that it was mild. They tasted the dish and it was mild with calm sensations. Okay. This is an easy section, so having to pull these x's and y's can be weird. X's and y's. Pulling these can be weird, but that's just because it's a simple sentence. Then I'm going to come over here and try to engage with my y concept. Y equals. The researchers, knowing that dishes were sometimes named after their intended effects, theorized the dish's name, unwinding, referred to its function, to help ancient diners relax. They said that is how it got its name for its function. So because they tested the dish, I'm already starting to engage with this idea. I like this because x, y, this is going to be another cause and effect. Because they tasted the dish and it was mild with calm sensations, they theorized the dish's name. Yes, they, with that theory in mind, said the dish's name referred to function. Yeah, that's a better tighten up there with that theory. Because they tasted the dish and it was mild with calm sensations, they said that the dish's name must have referred to function. That's going to be our cause and effect. We don't have any sort of contrast there, and it's not some sort of secondary support. Rhetorical synthesis. Pop out a zoom. 27 wants to provide an explanation and an example. We're going to have two layers here, and an example of flauna. Okay, the term flauna, used by Los Angeles-based printer, is a combination of the words. I do not have an example here, so this is going to fall on the lens of the pink. Don't you use the term flauna, a combination of these words, flora and fauna. This seems to be an example for that, an explanation of that to describe the subjects of his surreal paintings, and this is giving me a beautiful notion of pink. This person refers to a subject as this. If anything, this is a blue, no pink. The subjects of nectar are types of fauna. Okay, the subjects, maybe this is trying to engage with pink. A term uses when describing, no, this is going to be a failure as well. I don't need to check anything on the right side because this is the only one that does a nice job with both of these demands. Let's head to our first word choice question here. The fashion resale market, in which customers produce secondhand clothing from stores and online sellers, generated nearly $30 billion reduced globally in 2019, expected to see continued growth. Some analysts predicted is going to be my anticipatory word. We've got the signal element here to see continued growth. They predicted, right, more than double. That aligns with that idea. I'm going to have my anticipatory word of predicted, and I have the word predicted, right? No setups there. On these first sections, the words are so easy, so you're going to just land on a prediction probably your first time most of the time. So easy peasy. That one felt good. 2. According to botanists, a viburnum plant experiencing insect damage may develop erinium, a discovered felty growth on its leaf blades. According to botanists, a viburnum plant experiencing, this is going to be a signal element. This is, unlike the last one that had the ing at the start of the sentence, we have this one here describing the kind of plant that they were discussing. So there are ones who are experiencing insect damage. That's what we're referring to here. I'm going to take away this idea because that was just for me to help read and understand what was being talking about. But this, so ones that do experience insect damage may develop this thing, discovered felty growth. On the other hand, is going to be my signal element. Absolutely. Am I contrasting this? If we had insect damage and undamaged is going to be my original idea here. An undamaged viburnum plant will have leaves with smooth. These are an opposite. Absolutely. So it's undamaged, not struggling. Undamaged, no. Healthy is absolutely going to be the word that aligns with my anticipatory word. 3. Look to the left side. When Mexican-American archaeologist, this person, published her 1886 research paper on sculptures, when she published her research papers on sculptures, found here, other researchers readily something. Her work is groundbreaking. This recognition, here's my signal element right here, they championed her work as groundbreaking. They championed. My anticipatory word is going to be championed. They acknowledged. I like that idea. I was way too positive there. They didn't ensure anything. They didn't go against it, and they weren't angry. This recognition stemmed from her. Yeah, there's absolutely positive in all of these things. 4, I'm going to start reading. Like other tribal nations, the Creek Nation is self-governing. Like others, it's self-governing. Okay. Its national council generates laws regulating aspects of community life, such as land use and healthcare, while the principal chief in cabinets. Okay, so we've got this notion of soft contrast. While its national council generates laws, while the principal chief in gown enforce those laws by devising policies and administer in accordance with them. By devising policies, follows, enforce, something like that. Follows, while it's self-governing. They generate laws regulating aspects of community life. Then, the cabinet officials, I don't know if I'm putting too much of like how our government works into this one in terms of like the notion of enforce, like the judicial and legislative branch, those laws by devising policies and administering services in court. I would go with enforce, enact, put into place. Implement is perfect, presume, improvise, mimic is absolutely going to be it. Implement, enact was absolutely it. Yeah, I was a bit too, my biases in my judicial system, legislative system, the executive branch coming into play. So 5, we've got more of these vocab ones, man. Oh, geez, I didn't put anything for 27. That is absolutely our answer with no hesitation. 5, for a 2020 exhibition, photographer and neurobiologist did something to a series of new images based on a series of alphabet posters from the 1970s known as which featured. So the photographer did something to adjusted a series of new images. No. Based on a series. Created is going to be my original idea here. A series of new images based on. I don't have much though, so I'm going to read the second sentence. Maybe it's created. I don't know though. The person photographed Oh, so yeah, absolutely. Is this created? My biases were there, but this could have done something there because the hesitance there, they could have been adjusted, but they photographed the now adult models. And that's where it was based on and layered. Yeah, they absolutely created this one. Oh, I'm cheating, right? This isn't real. My anticipatory word is the thing. We can see restored would have been so tricky had we not read to the that they photograph and layered the photos that they were making new, resulting in. All of these are my signal elements that would be a context clue signal elements here. These are the things that are guiding me to the notion that they made this. They didn't do any restoration. 6, the researcher led a 2020 study showing that individual acts of kindness can do something to prosocial behavior across a larger group. So stop or advance prosocial behavior, but we need to know where. Young and her team found that bystanders who witness a helpful act become more likely to offer help to someone else, and in doing so, signal element, and still inspire others to act. Absolutely. So that individual acts can create spread prosocial behavior. So my anticipatory word for this is going to be spread, not require, not remember, absolutely foster. C. 7. We are finally out of all of those word choice questions. We are on some sort of underlined sentence function question. What is the function of the underlined sentence? Female birdies have been seen quickly laying eggs in the nests of other bird species when those birds are out looking for food. Female, okay, pretty devious it seems to be. Females quickly use other nests when those owners are out looking for snacks. I'm going to see if that I can remove any of these just from this idea here. It introduces a physical feature. That is not what it does. It's a behavior. It describes the appearance of the nests mentioned. It describes the appearance of the nest, maybe, but it doesn't seem like it's their nests, but I'll leave it. It offers a detail about how they carry out the behavior. I absolutely love this idea. Let's take B off the table. It doesn't really describe the appearance, though someone might say that the appearance is the way that others look, mentioned earlier in the text. Some birds don't raise their own chicks. Instead, lay their nests. Others, yeah. So it's not about the appearance. It's about the offers of how they carry out the behavior discussed in the text. The text is the not raising of their own chicks. I love the way that C looks. D is going to be hard for me to even want to table. It explains how other birds react to the female behavior. No, they don't know anything's going on right now. Maybe something after does, but I'm not even going to fall into the trap of reading into something there that makes me fall off my path of loving C. 8, we've got a main purpose question. What's the main purpose of the text? I can just tell that we've got this silly little story. So let's read the last sentence and do a little summarino and then work up from the top. There was a hidden dignity. There was a hidden dignity in his scowling as he shuffled about, pondering the least ridiculous place for the picture. There was a hidden dignity in his scowling. He had on a facade of sorts, thinking about where he could put the picture, the out of place picture, right? The least ridiculous place for the picture. I don't know if the picture was ridiculous or it was not, but he's like hiding his feelings about something, it seems to be. Or, yeah. Okay, I'm going to start reading this silly little text. Bring this back up. Main idea of stories. They're the only ones that I don't find to be too charming. But hey, we're not complaining. We're loving this. This is the best thing that we could possibly do. It did seem that the picture failed to fit in with the rest of the shop. Yeah, so the picture was out of place. So the two possible things that the picture could have been out of place or the place was kind of ridiculous. Both of these are ideas. It did seem that the picture failed to fit in with the rest of the shop. A persuasive young fellow who claimed he was closing out his stock let the old man have it for what he called a song. Little fleece went on. Have it. There was like a dealsmanship. The guy was like a good barter. It was only a little out of the way store, which subsisted chiefly on the framing of it. It was only a little out of it. Was what? A persuasive young fellow who claimed that he was closing out his stock let the old man have it for what he called a song. It was only a little out of the way store, which subsisted chiefly on the framing of pictures. Usually the store framed pictures. The old man looked around at his views of the city, his pictures of cats and dogs, his flaming bits of landscapes. Don't belong here, he fumed. What did I misread about the previous sentence? It was only a little out of the way store. Oh, comma, which, so chiefly on the framing of pictures. Sure, okay. Usually the store, frame pictured, bad store. I don't really care about that sentence. I don't think. The old man looked around at his views of the city. The owner, felt that the picture did not belong, but he loved that picture and loved it was hid. Yeah, so he was putting on a front of this sort. He loves this picture. I have no idea what this is a picture of or what this is about, but I feel pretty comfortable about what's going on here. What is the main purpose of the text? To reveal the shop owner's conflicted feelings about the picture? Sure, maybe, and yet he was secretly proud of it. To convey the shop owner's resentment to the person? No, he does not hate that person. He's very happy about the picture, and he's very happy that he got it from him. To describe the items that the shop owner most highly prizes? No, those previous ones seems to be ones that he doesn't care too much about. As he looked around at the cats and dogs, the flaming bits of landscapes, and the views of the city, these paled to be kind of in compared to this. So it wasn't about celebrating the ones that he already has to explain differences between the new picture and to explain the differences. Oof. He does have conflicted feelings. I would die on that hill because of the signal element and yet. Hidden dignity, conflicted feelings, scowling, but then he's got dignity, shuffled and pondered, their least ridiculous place. This seems to be all about this conflict. To explain the differences, I only have that there is a striking difference, right? I have the notion of it that it does not belong here. However, the explain the difference would be saying what this picture is of, and I'm left curious as to what the picture is of. So that doesn't satisfy that. 8 is A. That was a pretty fun one, right? I did not enjoy reading this thing, but what a fun little puzzle on the right side. We have text 2, text 1. So we are going to read text 2 first, because text 2 is going to be responding to the claims of the author in text 1, so we'll read this one first. The painting programs used to create digital art involve more than just pressing it involves more than just pressing a few buttons. The painting programs used to create digital art involve more than just pressing a few buttons. Digital art is, don't be rude. It is more than just buttons, right? They're kind of attacking this schema that visual art or digital art is fake art. In addition to knowing the fundamental, not only must a person know the fundies of art, they also need to know the software. Many artists will start by drawing an image on paper before transforming the piece to digital format. I feel good in my summary of this, right? I'm ready to attack text 1. Many artists will start by drawing on paper. They start tradish, then transform, where they apply different, that are otherwise many. I love this, right? Now that's there. Required just one tool, not many. Let's start engaging with text 1. Digital art. The use of digital technology to create or display art image. Oh, he's already mad. Yes, it's art, you silly geese. How am I on time? Oh my gosh, I'm not good on time. So I'm going to start cruising. Let's start engaging with this. Or it can still be, no, he's not saying that it can't still be traditional, because originally the person of text 2 is saying that digital art is not even art. By explaining that it's a harder to use template, no, he's not saying anything about harder. There's like a simplicity present in the notion of that, but we'll leave it on the table. By insisting that digital art requires artistic abilities and skills, even if it employs you, absolutely, right? It starts from traditional art. He's not throwing shade and comparing. He's trying to, his purpose would be to unify the artists in this space by admitting that digital artists don't think fundamentally are important. No, they absolutely do think they're fundamental, and they start there. Let's start engaging with these. Charterinos effectively uses to complete the text. If use data from the graph to complete the text. U.S. states with the greatest number of organic farms in 2016, number of organic farms, and we've got all of these organic farms. We'll start with this final sentence, but, so we've got some sort of contrast. Maybe I kick back to it. I should be starting here. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, in 2016, that's the year that we're in, California had between 26 and 28 organic farms. And, cool, Washington had 600 and 800. Washington had that's nice. Between 600 and 800. New York had fewer than 800 organic farms. That's a liar. Wisconsin and Iowa each had between 12 and 4. No, there's just one that's between 12 and 4. Not both of these. Pennsylvania had more than 1,200 organic farms. Pennsylvania had more than 1,200. That's a liar. It's got to be A. Which quotation from John God the Water Carrier effectively illustrates the claim? So we're supporting the claim. What's my claim? Let's go to the final sentence, extract something from there. The narrator presents the job as being hard worker, fully dedicated. Seems to be my idea that I want to present here. These are my dual claims that I'm engaging with. If we wanted to, we could have separated this into 2 parts, but we're kind of pressed for time. Very happy he would jog home, heavy silver pieces in his leather pockets, making a discreet no. This seems to be Hard workers enjoy the aspect of work, not necessarily the dollary dues that they get from work. He learned that the city may not blow his whistle to halt the traffic while he gravely crosses the street, but he must wait for the passing of any. I don't understand what this is even saying. He learned that the city may not blow his whistle to halt the traffic while he gravely. This is maybe that he's not getting respect for it, so nobody respects him. That doesn't show that he's hard work or fully dedicated. From early morn to the fall of the afternoon, he would go from fountain to fountain, from portal to portal, his lean body to something bending that he's straining. His bad wow. Fully dedicated, this is absolute prayer. From early morn, both of these ideas engage with the hard work and the fully dedicated. When his first jug had worn out, the sweet-scented porous red clay had become. He had buried it. There's my accent. He had buried it to the next in the corner of his slept. Now his treasury. This is like he's stealing things from his jobs. Maybe this engages that it's hard work here, but the notion of fully dedicated to prayer and hard work are there. The sweet-scented when his first jugs had worn out, the sweet scent porous red clay becomes perforated. So this is something that happens to everybody. This doesn't necessarily show that he's hard work. He buried them to the next where they now his treasury. Oh, this is just maybe that he's using them to conceal something else. I'm making a little bit of a romanticization to get it from D to where I want to be, and C just presents the hard work absolutely here, and then the fully dedicated there. Which quotation from Loon Point illustrates the claim? What's the claim? An element of nature in the poem, which presents a nighttime scene on a body of water, describes an element of nature as an active participant in the experience. Through the water, the moon writes her legend. There's absolutely active participant of nature in light and unsmooth. Softly, the water ripples against. So we do have nature interacting with something, but there's no agency here. We want moon writes is gorgeous, or like the snow white petals, which drop from an overblown rose. This is the exact same thing. Nature is just being affected by the environment. The moon writes is the active participant, but the moon in her wayward beauty is ever and always the same. Active participant, no. We are actively participating with the moon's beauty, and while the moon might be a baddie, that's not what we're looking for here. I like this is present in A. We want data to support the researcher's claim. All right. What's my claim? Based on the results, they claim that, to support the researcher's claim, juvenile plants found growing on bare ground and in patches of vegetation for 5 species. Based on these results, they claim that the plants of these species grow in close proximity to other plants, gain an advantage at an early. They claim that plants of these species, what are these species, that grow in close proximity to these species who grow close to others get an advantage. What are these species? So I'm going to do a kickback to try to read the definition of that. The counted number of juvenile plants, 5 species growing in patches of vegetation, number growing alone on bare ground compared to So these are just all of them. Yeah, this refers to all of these things. Let's start engaging. For all 5 species, less than 75% of juvenile plants were growing in patches of vegetation. Okay, sure, but I want some sort of statement of advantage. The species with, though it might be true, this is not engaging with my claim. The species with the greatest number of juvenile plants growing in patches of vegetation was HS. That is true. The greatest number of juvenile plants growing in patches. But this doesn't express my grows close to others getting an advantage. I want some sort of language of comparison. For T-lib and T-more, T-lib, T-more, T-lib, T-lib, T-more, these top 2, the percentage of juvenile plants growing in patches of vegetation was less than what would be expected if plants were randomly distributed. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to go on to C. For each species, the percentage of juvenile plants growing in patches of vegetation for each species, what would be expected if it was randomly distributed. What does it mean to be randomly distributed? The research calculated that if individual plants were randomly distributed on this, only about 15%, yes, would be with others. So it's going to be this one. The percent were growing with less, no. Those are both more than the 15%. D is going to be my answer. Pick that. Marty explores the value of literature, arguing that society's spiritual well-being depends on the character of its literary culture. Poetry, which brings together, so we've got literary culture right there, which brings together or separates, which fortifies or brings anguish, which shores up or demolishes, which gives or robs men, is more necessary to people than industry itself. Spiritual well-being. For industry provides us while literature gives them the desire and the strength for life. I love this from the notion of well-being. I love this from the notion of culture. Every society brings literature its own form of expression. The history of the nation we're told with. No, this is about authenticity, not spiritual well-being. Where all the race of men go when they have lost their habit of thinking with faith in the scope and meaning of action. The best among them, those who consecrate nature with a sacred desire for the future, will lose in a sordid and painful annihilation all stimulus to alleviate the ugliness of. Where are we? Oh, I like this from the standpoint of maybe some sort of well-being, but I don't have attributions to habit of thinking with faith. Yeah, this is taking away the notion of literary culture. Listen to the song of this hardworking and satisfied nation. Listen to Walt Whitman, the exercise of his exalts. Listen to Walt Whitman, poet. Translation of. Listen to the song of this hardworking and satisfied nation. Listen to Walt Whitman. No, this is going to fall. A gives me both components, which most logically completes the text. Case 1, kickback. As a result, Sumerians did what? Let's go back one. That method worked so well that they often could harvest more than they needed in a season because they had more than they needed. Let's see if we can engage with these ideas without needing anything more. Harvested crops only on the hardest day? No, because they had more than they needed. Maybe only on the hottest day they found ways to shield their crops from the sun. No, they did not begin farming until long after. No, we're able to store crops for later use. I really like this. Harvest crops only on the hottest day of the season. Was there something about heat from that method? The extremely hot sunny weather helped grow quickly, but it was hard to keep it from dying. So they used water. With water, they were able to store more for later use. That's absolutely going to be it. We are absolutely going to finish this. Consequently, let's do a case 1 kickback. So we've got this idea. Because they found that fan needed dopamine, a reward should likely help what? Because they found that fan cells needed dopamine, a reward should help what? What is a dopamine? Dopamine equals pleasure. Sure, I knew that. But then a fan cell. Fan cells, a type of cell found in the medial temporal lobe are necessary to fan cell new associative memories. So fan cells make new associative memories. Okay. A fan cell needs dopamine. Consequently, when you get a reward, you should have an increase in new associative memories is going to be my idea for this one. Decrease, no, there's a positive relationship between these two ideas. Increase in individual capacity to recognize, maybe increase in individual form new associate. Yes, it's going to be this one. Decrease in, no, we're not going to deal with something negative. This is not my definition of this thing, and the answer is there. Done. Too easy. We never. That's why it's the importance of that, developing that skill to like read from the bottom up. I was kind of like chilling in the vocabulary sections because since I thought this was the easy section, I thought that it would be a joke, and it kind of was a joke, but when time got pressed for me, the strats really came through. The logically complete the text, we work backwards. We don't need much for these because they were in tough definitions. Even with the fan cells and the dopamine, I still was able to navigate that because it wasn't too complicated in that regard. I was reading with the purpose of doing that, and maybe my nerdy scientific background helped me engage with that question, but easy peasy on that one. That graph question was pretty darn fun. I didn't really understand what I was doing, but I doubt that having read more would have helped me in that situation. What I did was I went to the final sentence, built some sort of entailment, saw that it was trying to present some lens of comparison, then I started engaging with the items, took off ones that were liars, and then I read with the purpose of learning what that threshold was. Easy peasy. Thanks for hanging out.